listening to the Armchair GM Sports Network. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special installment of the Dog Pound Podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your May 19th, 2020 edition. Your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the Niagara region. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Armchair GM Pod, as well as this show's podcast at Dog Pound Podcast. Like us on Facebook by searching the Armchair GMs Network. Listen to us live, usually on Spreaker, but right now we are on demand on Spreaker.com and the free Spreaker app by searching the Armchair GMs. As well, we are on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, CastBox, and Deezer. So wherever it's most convenient for you to listen to us, we're on many different platforms for you. Please give us a like and a subscribe on all of those different platforms. We'd really appreciate it. As well, check out our brand new website, armchairgmsports.com, for all podcasts, articles, and everything to do with the Armchair GMs and our sponsors will be on that page and brand new website there. As always, I'm your host of the Dog Pound Podcast, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Capoots13 with a Canadian Z, and I'm always joined on the Ice Dogs portion of the network by my co-host and co-founder of the Armchair GM Sports Network, Kyle. Follow him on Twitter at JustKyle51. Kyle, we got a very special interview coming up right here on the Dog Pound Podcast. We're interviewing the general manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Joey Burke, with what should be a very interesting conversation about the IceDogs this season and what to expect moving forward.
I'm just so excited to start talking to Joey here and to get more of his insight of what happened this season and what happened in the draft and just what he thinks about the future of this organization. I'm sure it's going to be a great interview. I'm just very, very humble as well that he took time out of probably his busiest GM life, especially through this pandemic, to come on the show and talk to us. So I can't wait for this interview.
Absolutely. So, fans, let's get you to that right now. Here is the interview with Mr. Joey Burke, the general manager of the Niagara IceDogs. Enjoy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another installment of the Dog Pound Podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. On today's episode, we are pleased to be joined by the general manager of the OHL's Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Joey Burke. Joey, Brandon, and Kyle with you here. Thanks for joining us on today's show.
Hey, my pleasure, guys. Thanks a lot for having me.
Yeah, awesome. First off, Joey, congratulations on becoming an uncle once again to Harrison. We saw the picture on the IceDogs posted on Facebook. How are Coach Billy and his wife doing, and how exciting of a moment is this for the whole Burke family, trying to make light of what's been going on in the world right now?
Yeah, you know what? That's exactly it. And certainly, Mom and Dad are doing well, and family's excited and obviously hunkered down at home, as we all are, and trying to get through everything now. But certainly from my end, over the moon excited for them, for our family. We could not be more thrilled. It's certainly a bit of an odd situation when, you have a brand new baby nephew and you can't see him and, you need to keep your distance and all that kind of stuff, which obviously is not ideal. But certainly the important thing is everyone staying safe and healthy and getting through it. So certainly while, we're extremely excited, it's, we're counting the days to when we all get through this and everything's lifted and we can all celebrate in person.
Yeah, it'll definitely be worth the wait. I'm sure that'll be a special moment for the family. Oh,
absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely, it will.
And how hard has this time been not being able to be around not only your family but the team also, and not getting to introduce the new draftees in person? And what has your communication with the players and your staff been like during this period of isolation?
Yeah, so certainly it's been different. Usually when it comes to the summer, there's not a ton of face-to-face with the players anyway, the current guys. So certainly not a ton has really changed from that end. Between Billy, myself, and the coaching staff, we really try, and stay in touch as often and as frequently as we can with the guys. But then certainly, that's exactly it, as you alluded to there. Really, who I feel the most bad for is the new draft picks and the incoming guys. They really didn't get, their day in the sun. And, Fimis and these guys weren't able to come out to Niagara, get the pictures in the jersey and all that kind of fun stuff. There really is just kind of the cherry on top of the cake when it comes to draft day. And then certainly the other side of it is, usually we would have held our rookie orientation day by now. Obviously, we haven't been able to do that. So there's a number of things that certainly have been tweaked a little bit. I've been trying to reach out to the new guys and the old guys, as often as I can, just trying to keep them in the loop. But unfortunately, as we all kind of know, there's really not a ton of clarity from a league level, from, really a sports worldwide level at this point, to give the guys a direction, unfortunately. So where we're at right now, it's, stay safe, stay healthy, stay distant, take this thing seriously. And then as soon as we get some clarity and direction, we'll forward it on to the players. But right now, it's the onus is on them to do everything they can, stay in shape, work hard, to best of their current abilities. Then certainly we're hopeful everything lifts and we're good to go by September here.
And going off of that, I mean, we spoke with Pano Fimis a little while ago, a couple weeks after he was drafted, and he had mentioned to us that a lot of his teammates, new teammates from the IceDogs, had already reached out to him and to other draftees as well. So how pleased are you that the current members of this team are already, welcoming the new players by reaching out when they're not being told to do that?
Yeah, you know what? It's fantastic. And really, it's a true testament to the character of the group here. It's something we strive to do is to bring in the high character guys. And again, it's exemplary that they would take that initiative upon themselves and reach out to these guys, because, usually, you might be in a situation where I might text some of the leaders or whatever it might be to, reach out maybe to Pano specifically or whatever it is. But with this group, they took it upon themselves. We didn't have to ask or say anything to anyone, and certainly just kind of another testament really to the character, that this group has. So great to see from my end.
Right. And I'm just going to bring up, like you brought up about the draft day thing. That is such a huge part, I think, for someone coming into any league out there. Even if you talk about the NFL and the draft that they just had, that whole draft day experience of being there at like Radio City Music Hall and going through all that, it's such a huge part of transitioning into like a major league. It's really unfortunate that because of this pandemic that can't happen. And it looks like it will continue with other sports that are having their future drafts coming up, like the NHL. So it is tough for them.
No, exactly. And I couldn't agree with you more. Really, I'm trying to kind of, hammer into all the rookies that it's, don't let the excitement be lost because of the situation. And, you should still feel the same amount of pride that every other draft pick in previous years has. And, while we weren't able to get you out at the time, it shouldn't, diminish the excitement you feel at all. So certainly, I completely agree. It's very unfortunate on really every level. But certainly I think the important thing is, they know as an organization and, through great, programs like you guys, they know that the fans are excited, the program, the organization's excited, the region's excited, and as soon as we can show them in person, I know with our great group of fans, we'll do that, so I couldn't be more excited there.
Right. So getting into the interview, without talking too much about the future, let's talk about how we got here. It was a very interesting season, to say the least, with many twists and turns. It was our first year actually covering the team as members of the media. We were really excited for that. We know how many ups and downs this team went through, but just talk about the season as like a whole for you, being able to have time to reflect on it as your third season of the GM of the franchise.
Yeah, so, certainly it was an interesting one for us this year. Really from my end, I came into the season knowing that there were going to be some difficult decisions made. There were going to be some difficult moves that, quite frankly, had to be done. And certainly I knew in-house and out-of-house there'd be some pushback on some of them, but it really was a factor where, we went so all in the previous year, that really we had bare cupboards. Maybe to a fault, we were over-aggressive pursuing that championship. Obviously, that didn't work out for us 2 years ago. So coming into this year, we knew we'd be in a position with some returning guys, 2000s, some overagers with Jacob Paquette that just wouldn't be back in the league next season. And, we looked around. We knew as an organization, I said to the guys, it was, look, as a team, we're not going to win the league this year. We're not going to win the league next year. With the current roster we have, let's be realistic here. We have very few picks going into the future and that sort of thing. So it just became, we weighed the options and figured, Akil Thomas, Kean Sopa, Paquette, all of these guys, guaranteed out of the league next year, not returning. So those are the ones, excuse me, where we really, looked at it and said, we need draft picks. We need young bodies. These are moves that really, while at the end of the day, they're extremely difficult to do, in particular the Akil Thomas ones, there were ones that, we felt as an organization in the short term, we knew the impact it would have, but we just knew long term it's something we had to do. And then the one, obviously, which I think was a huge kind of surprise and shock to a lot of people, was the Tomasino deal. And so that one really, was one where I looked at it, and Oshawa was just relentless and phoning me every day on it. And I'm going, this isn't something that we can do unless you meet an outrageous asking price of picks. And I just started to increase and, put these level of picks towards them. We were able to work it out together. So it was an interesting thing where, there's a new rule in the league coming into place this upcoming season where you can't trade draft picks more than 4 years out. So it's, the nature of that is that, the deals that we've seen in the past with, picks 10 years out being traded and dozens of picks and all that kind of stuff, those days are gone. So really we looked at it and said, this is the absolute last opportunity we're going to have to completely restock and then, in many years, overstock our draft cupboards. And we quite frankly said, with Tomasino this year, yes, we'll probably get a higher spot in the playoffs, maybe win a game or two. But at the end of the day, he won't be the difference of us winning an OHL championship this year, or not. So we really kind of had to look at it. We knew, what the repercussions would be, what the results would be, after making those trades. And certainly we saw that come to fruition. Really from my end, I tip my hat to the coaching staff. After those deals, we really became a young group, and it was difficult to kind of find an identity of a team of guys who, had been playing in lower roles and that sort of thing. So certainly I give a ton of credit to the guys and our leadership group for battling through, keeping in mind, certainly, when the season was called, we were still in a playoff spot. So it's very kind of an odd scenario that way where technically, the playoff streak in a sense continues while at the same time, we were able to get the second overall pick. And then that's where, from my end, the excitement really kind of comes in because Pano Fimis is legitimately the guy we were targeting all year long. So to be able to put ourselves in a spot, not only to have the most stacked up draft cupboard in the league, we now have the bona fide stud young forward coming in. So really, it was a lot of short-term pain for a ton of long-term gain. And certainly from our end, while it's extremely unfortunate the way everything's ended and how the past few months have gone, it's certainly hockey-wise, the worst is behind us. We did our, unload, so to speak, and we now have the makings of a high-end, exciting young group, and we can't wait to move forward here.
Yeah, it's funny you brought up Tomasino. I think it's interesting to see. We bring it up on the show all the time that some fans kind of get into that mindset of like kind of taking an OHL club as an NHL club where these players, they kind of think these players will be here for long, but in the OHL, they kind of have like a shelf life. Like they're not going to be here always. And if there's going to be a point in time where you do need to trade them to restock your draft picks, you kind of have to in a way, right?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And certainly, one, there's no guarantee Tomasino's back next year. I mean, the way he's playing, excuse me, let's be quite honest, where Nashville is with their cap space and, there's a lot of factors at play. But certainly anytime you get a guy who can play at the pace that Tomo does, he's going to get absolutely every chance in Nashville to make that team. So one, there's no guarantee he's even back. And then two, as I alluded to earlier, even if he is back, the picks we would get would be cut in half, if not more. For one season of a guy, you're going to, give up half the picks, and then knowing you can't stretch them out as far as you could have this year, it just would have been the landscape of a completely different deal. We would be set, way worse off than we're going to be now moving forward. So certainly, not an easy decision. And anytime, you have moves like that, it's something I really did struggle with. for quite a while. But at the end of the day, it was something that I truly felt, in the bottom of my heart was what is, best for this organization. And certainly now that the worst is behind us, I think it truly will be exciting moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, when you get a haul like that for somebody, like you said, you weren't actively trading him, but if they were going to meet your wants and things like that, I think when you get a deal like that, and like you alluded to earlier about how the picks would be cut in half, because he has that extra year. He had that extra year of eligibility for them at the end of last season, and then he has one more year left if he doesn't make Nashville. And like you alluded to with the new trade restrictions, you won't be able to trade for so many future picks. So I think it makes sense that you weren't actively looking to trade somebody, but like Tomasino, but for the long-term position of the franchise, I think those moves have to be made, as tough as they are, and like Kyle alluded to, it's different than the NHL. The shelf life, 3 or 4 years is all you get with a player. So it kind of goes into my next question. Were you optimistic about possibly being contenders for the playoffs this year, looking at your roster, or knowing that you had to restock the shelves, being the writing on the wall when you traded for guys like Robertson, Studnicka, was something you had to address as the glaring need is in the OHL, you just can't compete if you don't have draft picks.
And that's exactly it. So certainly from my end, it was, we wanted to make the playoffs. That was the goal of ours. We knew, quite frankly, what North Bay and what Kingston's rosters look like. So we knew regardless of the moves we made, we thought we would be in the mix. It would be kind of a 3-horse race for that last spot. We were very cognizant of that. Excuse me, but that's exactly what it was. Certainly at the out front of the year, it was, we knew we had some moves to make. We knew we had quite a few draft picks that we needed to recoup, so were a number of things certainly kind of at play that way. And again, you look at an Akil Thomas deal, and it's one that at the start of the year, you're most likely going to have to do something, but it doesn't make it any easier, when you do. So certainly it's, while we went into it knowing we still wanted to make the playoffs, we knew we had some moves to make, but certainly to, actually physically do it is something that's obviously a bit tougher when you get a guy like Akil who's been here for years. So from our end, quite frankly, while we, technically missed the tiebreak, that the league established with Kingston, when the season ended, we were still in the 8th spot. So absolutely, we consider it that we were in the running, and had the season finished in full, who knows what would have happened there.
Mm-hmm. So we did hear some good news today in regards to Tucker Tynan. So that was really good to hear. We saw an article that he's expecting to make a full recovery. And speaking of Tynan, as the season progressed, how pleased and maybe surprised were you with the development of Tucker Tynan in net, and how unfortunate was it to see his season come to an end and with such a tragic injury that we all had to get past?
Yeah, well, you know what, and actually I'm glad you brought it up, because even I'm remiss in thinking, when you speak of the season, and it's, kind of one thing after another for us last year, and I didn't even mention that, our starting rookie goalie who is having, a rookie all-star campaign for us, goes down with a season-ending, life-threatening injury. So, I mean, it was kind of one of those years for us. But in terms of Tucker specifically, you know what, I think kind of myself and our head scout, Roger McLeod, are probably the two people that were the least surprised of what he was able to come in and do. We kind of knew, it's funny, Roger and I have been joking since we drafted him that, he was a star on the Little Caesars program out of Detroit in his draft year. So, it's not like this kid was playing on an unheralded team and was underseen. He was seen. He was out there, and he was lights out all year. We couldn't believe that he fell, really to where he did. So we were ecstatic to be able to jump up and grab him in the 10th round there. And then again, he came into training camp his first year and blew us away. So really the season prior to this past one, he came into camp and was lights out. I think the kid literally, let in 2 goals. The entire training camp was scrimmages, black and white game, everything, literally played our first exhibition game, either got a shutout in half the game or let in 1 goal late, but was just tremendous in that game as well. Mm-hmm. I looked at the coaching staff and Roger and myself. We said, we can't let this kid leave this camp without a contract. We will never see him again. He'll get scooped up NCAA. He'll be gone. So we were able to sign him actually that first year. Found him a great home in New Jersey with the Rockets there. So went down, monitored his progress very closely. And again, not the strongest team in the world. But for him, it was a great benefit. I mean, he was really seeing 62 shots a night, and it was unbelievable. If you go back and see his numbers, he's saving 61 of 62 shots, and they're losing 1-0. It was like unbelievable. Like, you would honestly look at it and it would blow your mind to go back and kind of, pick through it a bit. So coming into camp this year, even though he didn't have any OHL league experience, I knew in the back of my mind he was going to take the job. It's funny. It's kind of a gut feeling I had. I said, he's going to come in and run with this, and then obviously right off of the start there, Sprags gets injured early. Tucker takes over game 1 and really never looked back. So it's unbelievably unfortunate for his sake, the timing of the injury. And I mean, things have been going so well, but at the same time, as you guys alluded to, great news coming out of Chicago today. He continues to trend in the right direction. He's getting stronger by the week here, which is great. He's able to get more and more active, which is fantastic to see. And again, as we've all kind of been saying all along, if there is one guy who can come back and, mentally not have it, in the back of his mind and not let it rattle him and not have him kind of thinking about it the next time a big guy's crashing the net, it's Tucker Tynan. He's so mentally strong. He really is a warrior and a champion, this kid, to the point that in my mind, we've all kind of genuinely believed that he will be back. It's great to see that it's trending in that direction. His strength is improving. And again, yet another setback, of the quarantine, the distancing, as the rinks are closed and, the gyms are closed and all that. Certainly isn't going to help the recovery time for him. But, certainly at the same time, it's exciting to see the progress he's made. And I will say, our hope and expectation, has certainly improved to the point that we believe he should be ready to go, really for the start of the year here, which has kind of been the hope all along. And that's really a dream scenario for everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome. And coming from me, I grew up as a goalie myself. I played travel for Niagara in the Lake up until I was in grade 12. But just watching him in the net, what stuck out to me is how confident he is in that crease with challenging shots and just not being afraid to be aggressive and he's so composed. That was the one thing too. He's so composed in the net. I could not believe seeing that out of a rookie goaltender in the UHL. It was really awesome to see. Yeah,
no kidding. And I really think you nailed it there, because that's exactly it. And anytime you get kind of these higher end goalies and the ones who look like they, really could be stars in this game, I find that's what they're able to do. They're able to be electric and agile and have unbelievable mobility while at the same time remaining unbelievably composed and present and, positionally sound and all that kind of stuff. So certainly all things that Tucker excels at. Our goalie coach, Bob Janos, has done a great job with him as well. And again, couldn't be more excited to see him back on the ice here.
Yeah, it would definitely be awesome to see him back wearing the number 1 in the crease for the Ice Dogs next year. If everything goes well with his recovery and with what's going on in the world right now, it'd be great to see. But we'll be right back here on the Dog Pound podcast on our special interview with GM Joey Burke right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano, serving Italian pizzas made with the freshest, top-quality ingredients. Loaded subs and our famous chicken wings, winners of the 2017 Reader's Choice Awards, and the brand-new recipients of the 2019 Reader's Choice Diamond Award from Niagara this week for Best Pizza in Niagara Falls. Open daily, located on the corner of Drummond Road and Dunn Street. Available for call-ahead pickup or delivery, 905-374-4400. Debit and credit accepted for both. You've tried the rest, it's time to try us. Carmine's Pizzeria Italiano. Attention job seekers. If you're currently looking for work in the Niagara region, you owe it to yourself to check out the services provided by the Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls. Free services include resource area open to the public, resume and cover letter writing, community resource and referral information, local labor market information, job search strategies, assistance with clarifying employment training and career goals, employment counseling and job search support, second career information and registration assistance, and check out our available workshops under our events calendar on our website for more details at www.ehc.on.ca, the Niagara Employment Help Center. Marcel Dion Inc. Come in and check out our store and meet Marcel Dion himself. We have wall-to-wall NFL, MLB, and NHL licensed products and all kinds of collectibles. We specialize in autographed sports memorabilia, If you don't see what you're looking for, just ask and we'll find it for you. So next time you need a great gift idea for that sports fanatic in your life, or you need to add to your own collection, come visit us first. You won't be disappointed. 905-357-7678, Marcel Dion Inc. Chippin' Charlie's, it's where the locals go. Fun, friendly, and entertaining staff. You're not just a customer, you're family. Lots of TVs, amazing food, and always a great time. Open daily 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. Call 905-371-3428 for inquiries and reservations. Located at 8189 Lundy's Lane, Niagara Falls. Chippin' Charlie's, it's where the locals go. Mid-City Motors Niagara, your premium source for pre-owned vehicles. Financing and leasing for all types of credit. Check them out at 4460 Drummond Road, Niagara Falls, or at mcmniagara.com. They are also happy to announce Mid-City Mechanic is now open. They can repair, maintain, and service all makes and models of vehicles. Conveniently located behind Mid-City Motors at Drummond Road and Perkins Street. They will be happy to help you keep your car on the road. 905-371-2277. That's Mid-City Motors and Mid-City Mechanic. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Dog Pound Podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Kyle and Brandon with you here, and we are pleased to be joined by the Niagara IceDogs General Manager, Mr. Joey Burke, and continuing our conversation here. And Joey, you alluded to in the first segment here a lot about what happened with the trades for Sopa, Thomas, and Tomasino and things like that. But I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but you've kind of covered our next couple of questions, so I just kind of want to just kind of overview them here. Akil leaves for the Team Canada World Junior Camp. Did you think at that point that he had played his last game for the Ice Dogs, and just how exciting of a moment was that for you and the whole organization to see Akil on the big stage in Canada, and then obviously scoring the golden goal for Team Canada? Just how special of a moment was that for a guy basically on his farewell with the Ice Dogs, and to be able to score such a big goal for not only just Niagara but for an entire country?
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And certainly from our end, it's, in the back of my mind, I did kind of know, looking at our schedule after the World Juniors and kind of seeing just the one game there, and it was on the 9th, and, with the deadline in the 10th, cutting it very close. I did kind of know, to be honest, in the back of my mind, that we had our Christmas teddy bear toss game, that would be his last game in Niagara. And again, even before leaving, what an unbelievable finish. The way that game ends, he puts the team on his back and literally scores that goal. That's his last game in Niagara. I mean, it's just so typical of the unbelievable guy he is that, literally you look at his first rookie goal to his last game, and every single one is, and in between is unbelievable. So great that way. And then certainly, the excitement was unbelievable. And again, it's, not that I want to call myself Nostradamus or anything of that nature, but it's funny. I genuinely had a gut feeling, going into that final, that he was going to do something special. He's just that kind of a guy. And even though, he wasn't getting, the most ice and all that kind of stuff, even as those minutes ticked down in the third there, I just kind of had a feeling. I said, he's going to get one more spin and he's going to do something here. He's just that kind of a guy, and he's been unheralded all tournament. So to see him do it, I think I almost gave my wife a heart attack when I, stood up and screamed as soon as he corralled that puck and was just going absolutely nuts. But again, certainly could absolutely not happen to a better young man, a better human being, obviously an unbelievable ice dog and the embodiment of everything we want to do here. And really the first guy that I ever drafted. So, certainly all those things in mind, made it an unbelievable moment. And then also creeping into the back of my head, if I'm being completely honest, when he scored that goal and after we stopped celebrating, I did kind of say to my wife, I said, oh boy, this isn't going to make the response any easier. This isn't going to make me any more popular in Niagara here, trading the Golden Boy 4 days after he scores the goal. But, again, it was something where certainly, I think we're all going to be pretty excited and happy to, be going into next season with Cameron Butler and his goal scoring ability and all the draft picks we have there. So certainly, at the end of the day, I think it's warranted. But then, obviously, the act of officially doing it and pulling the trigger on the trade and moving to Peterborough there. Tons of credit to Mike Oak, Peterborough's GM. Him and I have a great relationship and we worked back and forth for quite a while, really trying to get that one done. And then again, without question, the hardest trade I've ever had to make. And of course, we've alluded to the Tomasino one, and a huge deal in terms of picks and all that, and extremely difficult in its own right. Nobody loves Tomo more than we do here in Niagara, and I think he'll be the first one to tell everyone that as well. And that was an extremely difficult one, but Akil, was unlike anything I've ever done, and it really. The night he left here, it was like my younger brother, was leaving the rink. And there were tears all around, including myself and the staff. And it was very difficult, and then you see kind of everything out there. And, a lot of people, as you guys were saying earlier, they don't understand the cyclical nature of the league. They don't understand that it's not like the NHL and these guys aren't here forever. And, there's a lot of, well, how can you trade Akil? He's your best player. And it's, well, yeah, of course he is. And that's why there's, generated a ton of interest in him, and that sort of thing. So certainly, was an extremely difficult one to do, but one we did feel was necessary. And again, coming off the heels of the goal, just made it that much more tough for us. But certainly, Akil is an unbelievable guy. We kept in touch with him in Peterborough, and I'm not ashamed to say that once we did it, I certainly did, put my hat in Peterborough's ring. And had we had the playoffs here, and we weren't fortunate enough to make it, then certainly I would have been backing them and hoping for Akil there for sure.
Yeah, well, you're not going to get any flack from us with the Akil trade. We thought it was. We knew it was coming too. Like, we had the same thoughts, and it's funny. We both had the same thought while watching the game, because Brandon was over at my house and we were watching the gold medal game, and we both were like, okay, like Akil is going to do something. We just don't know what it's going to be, but something's going to happen in this game, and it's going to be Akil Thomas. But who would have thought it was the golden goal out of all goals?
Yeah.
And just it's like you can't script that.
No. Yeah, no kidding. I hear you.
And it's funny that you mentioned Akil and just the person that he is and the great leader that he is. We spoke with him the day before he left. Actually, I think it was the last home game that the IceDogs had was right before he left for the World Junior Camp, and we spoke with him just about how excited he was for the camp. And he was basically going into that, he's leading the IceDogs. He's a leading scorer of the team, and he says, I don't care if I play fourth line penalty kill. I'll do whatever I have to do for Team Canada. And that's just the type of guy that Akil is. He'll play whatever role he has to play. And obviously, like you alluded to, Joey, about his lack of ice time in the tournament with such great players that he was playing with on Team Canada. And you kind of check your ego at the door when you're playing on an international level for Team Canada, as there's just so much talent in those teams. But for the fact that Akil was just willing to do whatever it took to help the team win, I think that is a testament to him and just what we were used to here in Niagara for these years while he was on the team.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. And then actually, just funny kind of side story on that note. At the the Whippy Silver Stick tournament this year, which every year it's in late November.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually speaking with Mark Hunter, and they were going through their evaluation process, and so he was speaking to me in depth on Akil Thomas. So I knew he certainly was on the front tracks, really to kind of have a shot to make the team. And it's funny, he kind of asked me exactly what you're saying there, and exactly what you just said is what I told him. Excuse me. I said, he's got unbelievable character, and this is a guy, you want him on your fourth line, you want him on your first line, killing penalties, power play, wherever you put him, he will accept it, embrace it, and flourish in that role. And so it's exactly what you just said there. It could not be more accurate. I think that's exactly, plays a huge role in why they brought him in. And then again, you see him rise in that big moment, and certainly I think they made the right call there, as I'm sure the country agrees.
Yeah. And we interviewed him when he came back playing for Peterborough. It was very emotional for him, obviously. Even when he scored, he didn't really celebrate. And we interviewed him after the game, and he was still kind of choked up about it, and still feels like he's a part of this team, and how weird it was to go to the other bench or skate to the other bench and things like that. So even, he was on Peterborough, but his heart still seemed to be in Niagara.
Yeah, well, no kidding. And it's funny. Even I kind of met up with him briefly, in the hallways there after the game. And it was funny. Like, I kind of, made a little joke on how, it's weird seeing you in those colors, in this hallway type of a thing. And he wasn't kind of in that place yet where he could kind of joke with me about it. It was still, you could kind of see that it was weird, and in his mind, it was very weird being in Niagara and wearing a different jersey. And, obviously that wasn't the best game for our season by any stretch there. So certainly we just kind of joked on, And really, every time it's funny, every time I kind of, do a trade and I'm meeting with the player who's going, out of Niagara, I always kind of make a joke, well, don't stick it to me too hard when you guys come back in here and play against us. So I told Akil, I said, well, obviously you didn't listen to me because you come in and put up 6 points against us here. So,
yeah.
So no, I think that one got a bit of a smile for him, but certainly, difficult, situation for any player. And then obviously, as you guys alluded to, amplified times a million, when you get a guy who has been the captain and the face of the franchise and the leader here, and really has made Niagara his home for 4 years, certainly just makes it that much tougher for sure.
Yeah, nothing but great things to say about Akil, and even Kian Sopa, Phil Tomasino, which we've talked about. You get, and moving on here, you get guys with term left on their careers back from some of these trades that you made, like Cam Butler, Cam Peters, whose season unfortunately came to an end because of an early injury, and then Andrew McLean as well for stability in the net. How excited were you not to only get the draft picks back, but also adding a few guys to this team who have a chance to grow with this team going into the 2021 season as well?
Well, that's exactly it. And that was huge from our end. We wanted to bring in some kind of younger, high-end guys, particularly up front going into next year. We're extremely comfortable with our depth and our young back-end depth, with our goaltending, specifically with Tynan and Rosie and these guys coming up, through the system is great. But we really felt, we wanted to add some pop up front and some young guys that we felt, really could be strong, contributors for us. So first with Butler, again, he came in and obviously was put in a bigger role than he was accustomed to in Peterborough, as a younger guy with an older team there. It's to be expected, but certainly he's a guy, as a goal scorer, I think he's going to come in, and really eclipse 30 goals for us next year. I think he's going to have a great year. And again, it's great to think, these guys are 02, so it's not like they're coming in as 19-year-olds next year. We're going to have some time with these guys moving forward, which is extremely exciting. So with Butler, we love his attributes. We love his goal-scoring ability. I think he's going to be an unbelievable trigger man for this, exciting group up front moving forward. And then Peters, he's, certainly is a huge wild card, on the league level. From my end, obviously, I know him quite a bit better, than the average fan would, kind of looking at his numbers. And this is a guy that in his minor midget year on the Toronto Marlies team, that really was the best in the province, had a tremendous season. Then he's a guy that, I'd almost characterize him, he's almost like a wild Mustang that you can't tame this kid. You got to just let him go. And, he really, you saw flashes of it once we brought him in. I thought he was certainly holstered a little bit up there in North Bay. They certainly play, shades of a bit more conservative style than we would, so we kind of opened things up a little bit for him. And then when he came in, I saw him getting his game back and why, the reason he was so good in minor midget. And I really started to see, flashes of that here in Niagara where he, is shot out of a cannon, has great jump. His first 3 strides are unbelievable, really can fly. And his stick was starting to get there for him. Then of course, he, as you guys alluded to, he has the season ending injury. So it really has been a very unlucky, difficult kind of, acclimatization, for him into our league. But having said that, he's a guy that I think a ton of people are sleeping on. And I think he's going to come in, and when he can kind of put together a full healthy season with our style, which is more conducive to his playing style, I really think he's going to surprise a lot of people, and turn some heads here. So we're very excited, at bringing those guys back. And then again, while we didn't see a ton of it, when we had them playing with Jake Uberti, they really had a lot of jam for us, and they really were able to kind of generate quite a bit of offense. Now, again, with injuries and having to shuffle things around, we weren't able to keep them together as long as we would have liked. But certainly there's some chemistry and some dynamics that we're kind of finding here with this young group, that we're very, very excited moving forward.
Right. Right.
And it's, we saw, like you said, glimpses of Butler's goal-scoring ability. I think that's he's going to definitely take that next step for the Ice Dogs. We saw what he did with Peterborough as well. But, a guy like Cam Peters, when we talked with Pano Fimis, he actually is familiar with Cam Peters. So that's also nice that Pano's coming into a situation where he also knows a current player on the roster as well. And it's, getting those guys back, like you mentioned, is so important to be able to even, the season that they ended with wasn't the greatest, but it brought them together as a group, and building that chemistry early on and going into building that into next season, instead of just getting a guy next season, they already have that little bit of chemistry from the way that this last season ended. And as young kids, being able to work through adversity and going through the tough times with the losing streak that happened, I think that's going to build a bigger bond between those guys, and hopefully translate that onto the ice going into next season as a learning experience for these young kids.
Well, that's exactly it. And certainly, anytime you kind of get three guys who have the size and the speed that they do, it's just great to kind of see them find that initial gelling. And then certainly, just kind of alluding to the chemistry and the direction and everything of that nature. It's, I kind of look at our depth chart and think of the next few years, excuse me, and all that kind of stuff. And it's really, when I think of Pano Fimis's vision and how elite he is at finding the open guy and moving the puck, and then I think of Cameron Butler's shot, I'm just thinking, 2 years from now, my God, the magic that, these kind of guys, and not that we will have them together, there's a lot of options, but it's just, the options that we now have up front of guys that we believe are going to mesh well with each other and complement each other's styles and really find that high-end chemistry, is exciting. So I think we currently, have it in-house, as you alluded to, and then I think we've got it, really coming into house, and then some, with some of these younger guys, so really as a whole, we're very excited that way as well.
Yeah, or you can find the Cam line, the Peters, Butler, and Snow line. You never know.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. Can't bring in any more Camerons here. We're at our limit now.
I'm just going to quickly touch on the overagers that are obviously leaving the team, and it's unfortunate, but what they meant to you, or what they meant to the team this year, guys like Elijah Roberts, Castleman, who has been a big part of this organization, and even the very short tenured captain of Ivan Lani, who was actually here for previous years as well. Yeah, well,
you know what? I really can't say enough, about these three guys. So certainly anytime, you have three, good to elite, really, OHL players, as overagers, the general consensus is that these guys are going to be breaking my door down, demanding trades, and they want to go to a contender, and they want to be moved and this and that. And it was the exact opposite with these three guys. All three of them came into my office as a group. They said, Burke, we don't want to be moved. We love it here. We want to help, urge this young group into the playoffs. We want to make some noise. And believe me when I tell you this, all three of them genuinely believed and knew that we could get in and we could make some noise and we could surprise some teams. So it's not a situation where they felt, well, this is the twilight of their OHL career. They're going to keep it safe and finish in Niagara, and then they'll move on to other things. These guys wanted to win, and they wanted to win here. They wanted to be leaders and mentors to this young group, and they really did an unbelievable job. So first off, with Lods, not an easy role, obviously, to take over that seat from Akil midway through the season on a transitioning, younger team, and did an unbelievable job with it. I mean, really, as a leader and as a gentleman and just an all-around good guy off the ice, really, there aren't many better than Ivan Lodya. I mean, he just did an unbelievable job with our group this year. Communication-wise, is unbelievable. Just really proud, as an organization of what he did. And then obviously with Castleman, a guy who had been here for the past 4 years, went undrafted in his first year. Our Ottawa area scout, Kenny Fleck, pounded the table like I've never seen a scout on draft day. When we got to that fourth round, he said, we're insane, if we don't take this guy. And he was absolutely adamant. And it's funny, Kenny's still with us now. And every time we meet, we still joke about how right he was with Oliver Castleman. And again, a guy that over the years, just to see the maturity and the growth, in his character off the ice, has been tremendous. A workhorse, a compliment to Lodnia this year, and really, on a team where, really there were a lot of tough nights and a young group up front, and Lodnia had a long injury stretch, even after the trades. Cass really was that guy up front who every night stepped up for us. He left it all out there, and we couldn't be prouder of everything he did here in Niagara. And then obviously with Elijah Roberts, a big trade that I made with Kitchener a couple of years ago. He was excited to come in here. We were excited to have him. And again, boy, am I glad that we did that, because certainly by the end of it, he really was an ice dog in the truest sense of the word. An absolutely unbelievably, high character guy, amazing work ethic, great teammate, always kind of the guy that would bring the room together. And even this season, as an older guy with a younger team, there were no cliques, there was no separation or anything of that nature. It was, he made sure if you're in this dressing room and you're a part of this program, that you are all teammates and you are all brothers, and certainly I'll always remember, Elijah's time here, very fondly, just because of the kind of guy he was. And again, as I told these three guys, it's heartbreaking for me, really probably more so than any other scenario, from our league's perspective, is for the overagers that never got their swan song. They never got their highlight videos and their farewell and their tributes, and really it couldn't be more true with these three guys. They deserve that recognition. And so we're certainly hopeful we can do something for them if we're able, to get the team out and actually have a proper kind of send off, for this past year's team. We will. And then if not, certainly we'll be looking to do something to honor these guys next year. But again, no one deserves it more than them for sure.
It's funny you mentioned Elijah. I mean, I think that guy would have strapped on the pads if he needed them to. I mean, the guy, he went from D to even playing forward, and you know what? If you would have needed him with the goalie situation, I'm sure he wouldn't have said no to strapping on the goalie pads and putting the mask on.
You know what? I tend to agree with you on that one. And again, it's funny because in an odd, interesting year as we had, you expect your higher end guys to take on different roles if need be. And certainly it's something where, I don't think coming into the year, anyone would have anticipated a game with Akil Thomas playing defense and Elijah Roberts playing forward. But I mean, really, that's kind of the position we found ourselves in, with a nightmarish stretch of injuries. And, obviously I could go on and on that end, but that's exactly it. I mean, he's just an unbelievable warrior. As a fifth-year guy, he's been a defenseman his whole life, to accept the challenge of moving up front and giving us some great high-energy, hard-working minutes, really is a testament to the kind of guy he is. So great to see there.
Absolutely, and that's a great story about those three overagers. It's great to see that, even at such a young age, those guys being able to step it up and wanting to be leaders for this very young group.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take our last commercial break on the show today and come back with the finish of our interview with the Niagara IceDogs general manager, Joey Burke. So we'll be right back here on the Dog Pound podcast right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. The Blue Line Diner is Niagara's leading breakfast restaurant. Great food, great service, and where else can you see one of the NHL's greatest players having coffee and conversation with patrons? Of course, Marcel Dion Inc. is located directly next door, and Marcel is always in and out of the restaurant talking to the kids and the fans that walk through the doors. Open Tuesday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday, 8 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. 289-296-8785, the Blue Line Diner, located on Montrose Road, Niagara Falls. Simply Fit Health Club, real 24-hour access, 7 days a week. Located at 6595 Drummond Road, Niagara Falls. A clean, modern facility with top-of-the-line equipment, a friendly and non-judgmental environment, free Wi-Fi, ample parking, and more. Come in and tour their facility anytime during their office hours, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturday 9 a.m. to 6 p.m., and Sunday 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Don't hesitate to stop in. No appointment necessary. They take pride in helping their members reach their health and fitness goals at their convenience and for the best possible price. For only $9.99 bi-weekly, members will get access to the state-of-the-art facility any day, anytime. What are you waiting for? At Simply Fit, there are no excuses, only results. Come see for yourself, 289-296-9535, or info at simplyfithealthclub.com. Simply Fit Health Club. Mick and Angelo's, Niagara Falls' premier sports kitchen and bar. We're all about food, friends, and fun. Catch the game with us and grab a delicious bite to eat while enjoying a cold beer. Bus trips to sporting events, live music performances, and sports pools throughout the year. Open daily 11 a.m. to midnight and 11 a.m. to 1 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays. Mick and Angelo's, Niagara Falls' premier sports kitchen and bar. Canadian Wrestling Figure Store. Check out their website at cwf.ecwid.com for the best selection in Canada for WWE Elites, Basics, and exclusive action figures. Free Canada-wide shipping on any order over $200. Enter the code Armchair at checkout so they know that we sent you to receive 10% off your order. Once again, that's Canadian Wrestling Figure Store at cwf.ecwid.com. Attention employers! Finding the right candidate to meet your hiring needs requires more than just posting an advertisement and waiting for a suitable candidate to apply. Let the Niagara Employment Help Center save you valuable time and money by making your hiring process easier. Free job postings, fill job vacancies quickly and efficiently, access to a bank of potential employees, reduce employment costs, all candidates will be pre-screened, job trials and placement incentives, and financial assistance may be applicable to offset the cost of training. Again, that's Niagara Employment Help Center, located at 6100 Thoroldstone Road, Niagara Falls. www.ehc.on.ca. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are here with the Niagara IceDogs General Manager, Mr. Joey Burke, on a special edition of the Dog Pound Podcast here on the Armchair GM Sports Network. Kyle and Brandon back with you here. And Joey, the season ended abruptly due to COVID-19. You end up with the second overall pick. We're excited about the opportunity to bring in a really good player. I know we've alluded to Pano Fimis earlier in the interview, but as the silver lining for what was a very tough season, and the first time Niagara had really experienced a team that had to battle through such adversity, with the losing streak, a very young team trying to push themselves into enhanced roles that were magnified after these trades were made, and just maybe the Niagara fan base being a little bit spoiled the fact that they had never missed the playoffs since this team had moved here to Niagara.
Yeah, well, exactly, and certainly I'll prelude it a little bit just by saying that in my mind we got the second overall pick and we still made the playoffs. So technically, somehow it's the best of both worlds because we technically were not eliminated. The season was called and the league decided tiebreaker for us. So technically, from our end, I think the streak lives on here. But certainly, most importantly for me, it was getting that second overall pick really was, crucial for us, and coming down the stretch and really when it kind of looked like, the season would be paused and then canceled entirely. It was, our question to the league was, how is this tiebreaker going to be decided? And it certainly looked like there was going to be no playoffs. And from our end, we wanted the second overall pick bad. Obviously, it guarantees you from your list a better player in general, but certainly in our mind, our target was Pano Fimis, and we knew at second overall with North Bay needing a defenseman, we knew we would get him. And now, again, he's high-end enough that I know North Bay showed a ton of interest, and until they made it official that they were taking Nelson, I didn't take a sigh of relief, until we knew kind of that we would get him 100%. But had it gone the other way and Kingston picked second and we picked fifth, there's 0% chance that Pano Fimis gets to fifth overall. It just would not have happened. So from our end, it was a franchise-changing play to be able to make that second overall selection because we were able to get the guy that we felt from day one really would be the game-changing, franchise-changing centerman that we, felt we needed to bring in here. So certainly, from our end, it was a whirlwind and the whole way it all kind of came together and as a situation, obviously, very, very few positives, if any, to come out of it. But from an OHL level where we were, it was, to be able to pick second rather than fifth was something certainly, in the back of my mind, I was excited about. And then as soon as we were able to confirm, that Nelson was going one and we'd be able to get Fimis at two, then the excitement really kind of went off the charts, and we knew that we'd be able to kind of put the foundation in place here, so very exciting that way.
Mm-hmm, right. So with this pandemic obviously happening, the draft process was obviously a little bit different. Did you feel like you had an advantage in some way that maybe other teams didn't have? And maybe obviously you guys done your due diligence with your scouting and everything. in coming into this draft, or did you have to go into some other level of preparation than other seasons with this draft?
Yeah, so you know what, it was similar, on a lot of levels, and then certainly a bit different on some others. So first and foremost, I mean, coming in, having the advantage of North Bay announcing first overall the day before, does give you a nice leg up. In the back of your mind that you're not going to have your plan A taken from you right ahead. Perfect example, when we took Tomasino at 5, we had no idea what Saginaw was doing. We knew they liked Tomasino. We wanted Tomo bad, but you just can't control it. And then it's, the guy that we planned all along goes right in front of you, and you have 3 minutes to now, make a huge decision for the franchise. So certainly knowing, that we were going into the day selecting Pano Fimis at 2nd overall was very comforting. And then going in, with the cancellation of the OHL Cup, that was kind of the one thing, that threw a wrench kind of into everybody's plans. But from our end, we pride ourselves as a staff that there was not a doubt in my mind that every area guy we had, and, myself, our assistant GM, and our head scout, all of us as a group, we had seen, more than anybody. And we'd been out so much throughout the year that really from our end, it's the OHL Cup is a great spot to get that end of the season benchmark and, really, track the progress and kind of get one final look at these guys. But it's not by any nature, whoa, you got to go and you don't have any viewings on this guy. And, now you have to cram 3 in and really kind of get a feel of what kind of player he is. I mean, there's really nothing like that from our end. So we came into the draft very comfortable with our knowledge base. We knew we were on top of it. We had a great list. We had great Zoom meetings the week of, just to kind of test out the system that we would have to do on the draft day. We were able to do it. So, I mean, really preparation-wise, not a ton different. List-wise, not a ton different. What became very challenging was on draft days, it's extremely important to have everybody in one room and be able to have that dialogue and that back and forth. And if you want to have a battle, over 2 players, you can put their name on the list and pull the room and get the guys' opinions and tell them why we're going in this direction or why we're going in that direction. And what I found was that over the video conference call, that became a challenge where, you have a lot of guys trying to talk over each other, then they'll stop talking, and now nobody wants to talk because it's hard to find an order when you have 10 guys that are all in a different room, and we have 3 minutes on the clock and everyone's trying to get their opinion in. So certainly, it was a little bit more of, I kind of had to just hit the mute and silence the noise and give the direction of what we were doing for a number of rounds, just because it became a little bit too chaotic trying to kind of, manage everything over this video call, whereas when everyone's in person, it becomes quite easy to do it that way. So that was kind of the one challenge of it, on a basic level, was just to not be able to have kind of everybody in-house. But certainly, our plan, our preparation, everything leading into it was unchanged. And then certainly coming out of the draft, we're thrilled. And we went into it targeting the guys that we got, and certainly a lot of guys we didn't feel would be there as late as we got them. So really as a whole, we came out of it feeling great and certainly no issues. But I would say, overall, if I had the choice to do it in person or do it over a conference call again, I certainly wouldn't choose the call, really going forward. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm thrilled we were able to get it done. I think kind of the hockey world needed some excitement at that time. And then certainly from our end, it's the longer things drag out, the longer you're not able to make it official. So for us, to be able to draft these guys, get our first 4 guys signed already, and know that these guys are locked up, ready to go come September is a great feeling as well.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, you already basically answered my next question, but did you enjoy the process of it? Like, did you, the lead up to it and just the draft day in general, did you enjoy it? Or like you just mentioned, you'd obviously rather do it in person, but just having a chance to have the draft still, was that still something that you enjoyed?
Yeah, exactly. And so first and foremost, to be able to have it was huge, and I was very excited when we had the league conference call and it was decided that the draft would not be postponed. That was great from our end. We wanted to get it done. We had set our sights on the guys that we brought in. So we were excited to, get into it, and add these guys to Niagara for sure. And then having said that, it's I'm always excited, and I always enjoy the process of a draft day. For me, it's certainly the most hectic, the most important, the busiest kind of day of my year. But at the end of the day, it's, I always really do kind of enjoy it and the chaos that goes with it and everything kind of coming to fruition and having those battles with the guys and all that. So it's a day, obviously I circle on my calendar for a number of reasons. And then again, it's, we still did enjoy it and we were able to get through it and all that kind of stuff. It's just with everyone on the computers, it didn't quite have the same feel. Mm-hmm. So certainly, it was a situation where I did enjoy working through it and certainly, very much enjoyed the end result. It very much was a situation where, if we could avoid doing it over the video call, I certainly would prefer that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Like, even me thinking about it, that would drive me a little bit nuts, not having everyone in the same room and not gaining like a kind of like a room sense of what everyone's thinking about the next pick. That drive me a little crazy.
Exactly. And then, because really what I found to be the hardest thing was that, and again, I'm certainly not Bill Gates with my IT knowledge. So really what kind of frustrated me was that I couldn't figure out how to just get everybody on the screen at once, so it kept jumping. Like I could only get 5 guys on at once. And then it would keep jumping to other, scouts' individual screens. And we had other guys talking and I could hear them, but couldn't see them. So it's just, while it was run great and the Zoom call worked very well, it just certainly it was kind of the intricacies and the ins and outs, that weren't ideal. But at the end of the day, we went in with a plan, we were able to execute it. So certainly that's the most important part.
Yeah, we're not all IT experts like your great media coordinator. Shout outs to Jordan Musa, the live stream she's done with all the alumni team. She's done a great job, having 10 guys on a chat trying to, sometimes it's like trying to, wrestle in some children sometimes to try to get 10 guys to focus and cooperate on a chat like that. So she did a great job, and I'm sure it was kind of the same for you.
Yeah, no kidding. And you know what? I certainly don't envy it after, having gone through it myself. But no, I echo your sentiments there. I've watched those videos as well. I jumped on the one, and no, I'm proud of how well Jordan does, because certainly I know how challenging that can be for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk about the draft itself, like the players in the draft. Obviously, we were thrilled about getting Pano Fimis, the crown jewel there, 2nd overall. Most likely, without a shadow of a doubt, our next franchise centerman, mature beyond his years. I kind of want to talk about the rest of the draft picks. So defenseman Alex Leonard from the Mississauga Reps in the 2nd round, teammate Bryce Cook, big body winger from the Toronto Junior Canadiens, and Dylan Rubrick from the London Junior Knights in the 3rd round. What about those players made you feel like they were worthy of being taken at those high picks rather than maybe somewhere else in the draft?
Yeah, so certainly I'll start with Leonard there, at 27. One that, certainly we kind of went into it knowing that with our first 4 picks, we wanted to go 3 forwards, 1 D. We knew we had needs we needed to address up front. And at the same point, you never want to be too thin in any particular year, on the back end. Certainly we all know how important it is to kind of win from the back end out at this level. So with Leonard at 27, it really was. He was our number 2D on our list, second only to Nelson, who went 1st overall. Wow. So we literally, as much as I could get the back and forth with the video screens going, I said to the guys that, here's a guy we've had inside of our top 10 as a staff all year long. We have him currently as our number 2 defenseman, only to the guy who went 1st overall. So it was one of those where I just said to the guys, the drop-off in caliber of defensemen from Leonard to anyone else who's available is far more significant than the drop-off in forward talent right now. So we kind of looked at it. There were 5 forwards, and funny enough, Cook was at the top of the 5 forward list for us anyway, so it worked out great. But we had 5 forwards and Leonard sitting on the board, and we said, look, if we don't take Leonard, he's going in the next 2 or 3 picks for sure. He'll never get around to our 2nd pick in the 2nd round here, and the drop-off is just immeasurable. Whereas, if we go with the forward, by the time we get to the next round, one of these other 5 forwards that we like, in the same ballpark will still be there. So it was a bit of a, a calculated risk that way. But we went in just knowing, we want to take a defenseman with one of these first 4 picks anyway. And just the difference is too great to ignore here. He's extremely high end, an unbelievable skill set, well-versed, has a great defensive, physical, mean, kind of gritty side to him. And at the same time, is an absolutely elite puck mover, great feet, very fluid, thinks the game at a fast pace, moves at a great pace, does everything quickly, very sharp out there mentally. So certainly, we're extremely excited to bring him in. And then again, we were over the moon 6 picks later to be able to get Bryce Cook, because as I alluded to, we had 5 forwards on the board and Cook was our number one of those 5. So we said, we will get one of these 5, 6 picks later when we were taking Leonard, and we said, wouldn't it be great if Cook would be the one that fell to us? And then we were fortunate enough that he did, and then certainly a guy, played on Pano's left wing all year, unbelievable goal scoring ability. This is a guy who literally, gets bigger by the month here. His dad, I think, is, 6'7", his brother's 6'5". So this is a kid.
Must be nice to have those genes.
Yeah, well, no kidding, no kidding. So it's funny, you kind of look at him, he's a kid that is going to continue to grow. And I genuinely believe, he's going to be one of these guys that everyone around the league 2-3 years from now is going to look at this, 6'5" goal scoring machine and say, how the heck did he, get to the second round? Like, how was he not a bona fide first round lock? Just because that's kind of the upside and the progression he's been having. This guy is a player. He's detailed. He does the little things. He knows the finer points of the game. When you go and watch him, he's a guy that you always kind of gravitate to. And then again, to be able to score the way he does, playing in the GTHL, isn't easy. And certainly he's got a goal scoring touch that really can't be taught. So we're extremely excited to bring him in. And then again, as we kind of all alluded to earlier, just to have that chemistry level, with our future franchise guy from day one, is something that's extremely exciting. And then excuse me, with Dylan there in the third round, another guy, we never really thought he'd be there for us in the third round. So this is a guy that really, just a bit of a backstory, kind of coming up in younger minor levels, was always kind of the top player of his age group, the ones that it was, this is the player to watch for his OHL draft year in 3 years. And so then prior to this season, I think he literally went from, 5'10" to 6'3" in the span of 2 months. So he had just an unbelievable growth spurt. And then the way he really was able to kind of reel it in and adjust to the new size and really get his feet underneath him as the season went on was unbelievable to watch, to the point that at the end of the year, at 6'3", this kid moves extremely smoothly. He's very smart, very detailed, great on draws, very, very soft hands for a big guy, has great finish, a great goal scoring touch in tight, is good in traffic. He's a guy that really, I think because he grew so much and it kind of took him, maybe a month or so into the year to really kind of get used to the new frame and the new size and the new body. I think he was slept on a little bit. I certainly do know in talking to some, contacts in other areas that, had we not taken him at 45, I've been told, on pretty good authority that he would have gone, right after. And there were a number of teams that were kind of circling. So I'm sure there were quite a few GMs that were pretty discouraged when we did grab him there. But again, a guy really, as a group, we couldn't believe he fell as far as he did. But another guy, I think who's got great potential, big upside. And really, this is a guy that reminds me a ton of Isaac Ratcliffe, who came through our league very similarly built. Very similar playing style. So really I kind of see a lot of shades of Ratcliffe in Rubric. And again, if he's able to put it together, I think he could be, a heck of a steal in the third round there.
Yeah. My dad was the one that even read an article about him the other day and goes, "Can you believe this guy?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "This guy is 15. He's 6'3".
It's unbelievable. It really is unbelievable when you think, the strength and the size of these guys at such a young age. I think of Rubric this year and Cato last year. It's really, it's unbelievable. But at the same time, we'll take it. We like that size here, and I think he's got a bright future.
And shout outs to Cato. His dad's an avid listener of our our podcast, BCat on Twitter. So shout out to him. We give him a shout out every show, it seems like. So shout out to him.
Well, you know what? Doesn't surprise me. Brian's a great guy, and boy, he's dialed in. So no, doesn't surprise me there. And again, can't wait to get going. We know Landon's gonna have a great year for us this year, also.
Yeah, it seems like you wanted to add a lot of size to this team, obviously, with guys like Bryce Cook, Dylan Rubrick, and was Bryce Cook as a teammate of Pano Fimis, did that just make it that much easier to take a guy like that with the other second-round pick that you had?
Yeah, you know what, it really did. And again, as I kind of alluded to, there were a number of forwards that we were very interested in, and then it's funny. We actually preferred Bryce, but the way the draft went, the other forwards went in between our two picks anyway. So by the end of the day, quite frankly, made it a very easy decision for us. And really at the outright, he's the guy that we wanted to take with one of the second round picks anyway. We were thrilled that he fell to the second one for us, which is great. But that's exactly it. Really having that kind of trump card of, the fact that these two already have great chemistry. They're already close friends. They played, and that's the exact thing. They didn't just play on the same team. They were line mates, and really drove a lot of things together along with Castle, the other guy on that line there. I mean, all three of them just had such unbelievable chemistry together, that to be able to bring in two of them and especially have Cook come in with Fimis, who obviously was the linchpin and drove, really everything, was extremely exciting. And again, whether they're kind of, placed together from day one remains to be seen, but certainly I think we'll see that chemistry a few years from now really kind of come back, once they both acclimatize. And again, we couldn't be more excited.
Yeah, I think that's very important to have that familiarity between those two players already. It's already a bonus for you guys. And in total, you get 13 new additions to the IceDogs family. Have you gotten you've already gotten commitment from some of them already. How exciting is this next chapter of you to watch these kids all grow up together and what hopes to be something special in the next few years for this organization?
Yeah, well, absolutely. And certainly it was huge for us coming in. We made those difficult trades and did all the difficult moves knowing that it was going to pay off come draft day and moving forward to, to future draft days. So coming in, we were very excited to have 4 very high picks that we did. But the direction from myself to the entire staff was that it's, we're not taking any flyers. We're not taking risks. It's, throughout all of our interview processes, it is 100% you're reporting to Niagara or we are not touching you in this draft. So we went into it feeling very comfortable, in the guys we targeted, but also knowing that we were going to be able to get early commitments from these guys, have no questions out there in the air. We wanted these 4 guys. We drafted these 4 guys. We got these 4 signed. The intention is that all 4 of them will be with us, from day one this year. And that's huge. Anytime you're in kind of a transitional period as we are, to be able to bring in, a young group collectively of such high-end guys all together and have them all commit now, is extremely exciting. When you look, we had made 4 picks this year by the time we made our second pick last year, so it's huge. Wow. People don't quite realize that it's, in addition to the lack of picks, it was, the previous regime certainly didn't stack us up with anything either. I mean, the past 2 years, we had a first and a fourth, and then a first and a third and a sixth. So, I mean, it's not like we went into these, rolling in draft picks and that sort of thing. So it's kind of a situation where we were very excited to finally look at our draft board for the next 6 years and see multiple seconds in every year instead of an empty hole there, so right. That's very exciting. And then to be able to use those on guys like Leonard and Cook, and then to get Rubrick in the third, who we felt was the second round player anyway, really is exciting to have them all signed. We couldn't be more thrilled. And then again, even Struthers in the 5th round and Wisdom in the 6th round, these guys, have absolutely every chance to come into camp, and either make us or earn a contract, and maybe they're a year away. So, I mean, we love, the depth of our draft, the commitments we've had, and really, I think you guys nailed it, with our direction. We could not be more excited at this point here.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously, Joey, we don't know what's going on in the world with this pandemic. We don't know what next year is going to bring us. If the season starts on time as scheduled and as everything is planned to go, We don't know how protocols will look like going into the fall as of yet, but let's just say that it does. What are you and the coaching staff going to be looking for from this team going into training camp and the start of the season? I'm sure as it's going to be a learning curve for many of them trying to get to that next level of their development.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And certainly first and foremost for the guys will be, throughout the summer, even in the midst of the uncertainty to, make sure you're working out, staying in best possible shape you can. Because as we all know, this level, if you don't come to camp in better than game shape, you will be left behind. So certainly that's the first thing, just physically, come in as strong and as, fast, really for especially these young guys as you've ever been in your life, because that's the challenge that really is going to be putting itself in front of you now. And then certainly, once we arrive and things are normal and we're able to get into it, then, status quo as usual. Exhibition season to kind of finalize the roster and for the first year guys, start to get a sense of, acclimatizing to the OHL pace. And then really, individually, once it's regular season, it's hit the ground running, we're ready to go. We feel of a young, fast, skilled, exciting group here. So certainly from an organizational level, the direction to the guys is 100% we're a playoff team this year. There's no situation, where we're going to find ourselves out. That's the direction to these players, and I think we need to treat it as such. And then again, a lot of excitement yet to come. We have the import draft coming up next month. With the draft picks we have, trades are an option. Our future is bright. So certainly the direction to the guys is we've got through the storm. We did what we had to do last year, but that's behind us. And we are now not a, transitioning team who's, unloaded and trying to find an identity. We are now a young, exciting, fast, skilled team that is on the way up, and that's where we want to be. So we couldn't be more excited.
Awesome.
And maybe, having the full training camp under their belt for the returnees as well. I think that might be a key for their time to prepare for their new roles as opposed to, being forced into those roles when those trades were made in the middle of last season.
Yeah, well, you know what? That's exactly it. And then another huge part of that is when you look at guys like, Butler and Peters and these guys who exactly were put into the bigger roles, they'll be able to come in and get more acclimatized and more adjusted right from the get-go. And then at the same time, it's, while we have a young group, the O2s are now in their third year, so now is the time for the Hubertis and the Butlers of the world to really take that next step and take over. They're not young guys in this league anymore by any stretch. While they certainly have a few years left with us, the time is now for them to take that stride. And that's what's so exciting, really with our group is just where we were, when you look at our young back end, and we have Isaac Enright as a 16-year-old playing against every team's top line every night. Well, the stride, always with young defensemen, they make their biggest strides at the OHL level between year 1 and 2. So, we could not be more excited with with what he was able to do as a rookie this past year, where he's going to go. You look at Landon Cato with his physical attributes, the way he plays. He is the, perfect example of a guy who needs that first year to come in, get acclimatized to the pace, the physicality, the structure of the league. And he's a guy that we think is going to take a huge stride going into his second year here. So, it really is, while we're still young, we love the direction. We love the growth that we hope to see. We love the dynamic with this group. So we're excited. We're excited with where we're at, and certainly with where we're going here.
Yeah, I think that's a great mindset to have going into the season, that, just we can't use the inexperience or the, young card as an excuse. It really is that there's high expectations now, and everybody's going to be taking their next step with that nice core that's built there now. And, losing is not an option, like you just mentioned. And, these guys, if they want to be playoff contenders, they're going to have to take that next step. And, everybody's going to be pushing themselves to get to that level, because we saw at the end of last season that nobody wants to go through that again. So I think, all those factors together, it's going to, give them motivation, the already added motivation going into next season to come out flying.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with you.
Yep. And lastly, Joey, we've kept you on here for a long time here, but the last question is, what have you liked from the response of the Niagara community during this pandemic, and just how excited are you to get these guys back on the ice for the next chapter of Ice Dogs hockey to begin, and just give us some positive, in a time that has been so difficult for so many of us to get through in the world?
Yeah, well, you know what? I really think you kind of said it best there, and certainly from our end, and from myself, specifically, it's just absolutely blown away at really the response and the way, in particular, that our region has handled this, pandemic. I mean, obviously, this is really, took the entire world over in such a flash. That for kind of our region, all things considered, and obviously, it's a situation that's affecting absolutely every area, not only of our province and country, but of the world. Certainly, I think as residents of Niagara, we're in one of the, certainly the better areas, all things considered. And I think we do need to take some pride in that. And in the sense that people are taking the social distancing seriously and, taking the quarantine seriously. And, it's a scenario where, if we all do work together, we will all get through this together. And certainly, the message from our end, is that nobody is going through this alone. I think everyone in the world is sharing similar anxieties and similar difficulties with, with moving through it. But at the same time, there's going to be a light at the end of this tunnel. The world will get back to normal, and we're no different. And certainly from our end, we're extremely hopeful, not only that we'll have training camp opening up on September 1st, but that restrictions will be lifted and we'll be able to have an orientation day, even at some point in July or August. So, I mean, certainly we remain very hopeful. Our expectation is that we're going to start as normal. And then again, I think it's, never has been more important to have outlets, for distraction and for entertainment and, to get sports leagues back and try and get life back to normal as we know it, and we will. I genuinely believe that, as a society, we will get through this. We will get back to normal, and then certainly the Niagara IceDogs, we will get through this and we will get back to normal and we can't wait. And certainly where we're at, directionally as an organization, it is an exciting time and certainly in the world, there's not a ton to be excited about right now, but looking forward to the future, I'm extremely excited, thinking about where we are as a program, where we're going as an organization, and, thinking about this young group we have here is extremely exciting. So certainly, let's work together. Let's get through this and let's get back to Ice Dogs hockey in September here.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to ask you, Joey, going off of that, was, I know you could probably go on, an hour talk about, what makes Niagara so special and why they've embraced the Ice Dogs to become such an embedded part of this community over the last 12-year journey here before the move from the Jack and now their new home at the Meridian Center. But just what are your thoughts on just the Ice Dogs being a part of the whole night, bringing a whole region together, not just one city, like we see with Mississauga or other teams. It really does bring a whole region together with this team. And just what have you thought of that just over the last 12 years that we've been in Niagara?
Yeah, well, I'm constantly in awe of the unbelievable support and the unbelievable fans we have in Niagara. I mean, it really is, we strongly believe that we support our community and our community supports us, and we are absolutely thrilled to call Niagara home, and that's exactly it. For 12 years, it's not St. Catharines, it's the entire region. We are a regional team, and really, in my opinion, our fans are second to none in the league, in terms of you come to the games, they're loud, they're smart, they're passionate, they're knowledgeable, they're dialed in. I mean, I think we're the only arena in the league where if an Ice Dog has the puck lost in his feet, 5,000 people are screaming feet at once to help the kid find it. I mean, it's so funny how dialed in our crowd is, that really it's, I'm kind of left in wonder a lot of times, just sitting up there and taking it all in. But certainly, in my mind, we have absolutely the best fans in the league. We could not be prouder to play in front of them. And then again, it goes a long way even in terms of recruitment and, selling the program and getting these young guys excited. When we were at the Jack, I used to bring guys in and it was, well, I promise you, you have to imagine it with a sold out crowd and, the players love it here. And, you're kind of giving the big sell job to them. Whereas at the Meridian Center, quite often I'll walk the guys in and just, they'll look around and wide-eyed and jaws open, and they can't really believe that they could be playing here next year in front of this unbelievable crowd. So, it really goes a long way that way. We're very lucky with the support we have. Our fans are absolutely unbelievable, and we can't wait get back to normal and get back to hockey and start giving back to everybody again here.
Couldn't have said it better ourselves.
Yeah, Joey, I just want to just give like a kind of a quick shout and like respect and admiration I have for you as well. Like for you to have started where you started in this organization, like as like a goalie, I remember you were a goalie scout to like assistant general manager, like all the steps you took to become a general manager today, I have a really big respect for. So I do want to like thank you for what you've done with this organization throughout the years since Niagara's been a team.
Wow. Well, you know what? I very much appreciate, you saying that. And certainly it's, not a lot of people know that Billy and I started as interns in 2007. literally the first thing we did, and this is not an exaggeration, Billy and I were on the moving truck at the Hershey Center in Mississauga, loading all of the equipment, all of the skate sharpening stuff. We were literally the two people that unpacked the Ice Dogs from Mississauga and physically moved them to Niagara. So, I mean, That's really is, it's funny to look back and think, there's no truer to the sense that we've really been in it from day one and from intern to scouting and, assistant GM, director of player personnel and now GM. It certainly has been a ride, but, it's one that I've loved every minute of. And we could not be more committed to, building a champion here and bringing that excitement to Niagara. So no, again, couldn't appreciate that sentiment more. And, we can't wait to keep building on it and to move forward here.
Yeah, I'd love to see a Joey and Billy Burke movie of moving to Niagara. Or with the move to Niagara. I'd love to see Paramount Network or something. The Last Dance.
Well, well, I'm sure they'd have to put it in the comedy section because I don't know how smoothly it went that day. But, but no, we'll keep our eyes open for that one.
Awesome. Well, Joey, thank you so much for giving us so much of your time here as a busy general manager of the Ice Dogs to come on the show and talk about the season and what's to come moving forward here. It's like you mentioned, it's an exciting time for Niagara as a team and as a community, and all of our Ice Dog listeners here. I'm sure they've enjoyed and appreciated you coming on and just giving your insight about all the things that happened this season and why decisions were made, and how excited and how optimistic we are going into the next season. As like you said, the best is yet to come for the Ice Dogs here to bring a championship that we've all been wanting. We got so close a few times, and it hasn't been from the lack of trying. I know Kyle and myself are excited as we will hopefully be going into our second season as media members, as members of the Ice Dogs here, and it will be fun to watch this team grow in Niagara and with Niagara community behind them. Like you mentioned, it's a great place and for players to come and know that they have the support of the fan base and the whole community. So thank you so much. Be safe, and hopefully we'll see you down at the Meridian Center sooner rather than later.
Well, no, absolutely. And honestly, guys, the pleasure was mine. So thank you. It was great chatting. I listen to you guys all the time, follow along with you. So no, it's my pleasure. And again, moving forward, if you ever want me back on to chat, then just say the word and we'll do it again.
Appreciate
100%.
it. Thanks so much, Joey. Take care.
Awesome.
Well, folks, there you have it. There is the general manager for the Niagara Ice Dogs, Mr. Joey Burke. And wow, Kyle, some great insight onto decisions that were made this season, tough decisions, and just really optimistic and looking forward to what's to come with these new Niagara Ice Dogs draftees coming in, and just how the whole draft experience was for him this year, not being able to do it in person. Just gave us a lot of time as well. We're very humbled the fact that he gave us so much allotted time for this interview, and gave us and you listeners out there hopefully some great insight to behind the scenes with the Niagara Ice Dogs.
And it just went to show you that he is a perfect GM for this organization. You can tell in his voice and the passion he has for this team and how excited he is for this next young core to take it to the next level. You can certainly tell that he's happy with how the draft went and very excited for the future. And again, like you said, we're so humble that he came on, took time out of his busy life to come on the show. And I'm excited for future talks with Joey, of him coming back on the show and talking some Ice Dog hockey.
Yeah, and maybe that motion picture with Joey and Billy moving to Niagara will hopefully be in development at that time. But
come on, Netflix, get it done.
Get it done, and downloading Skype as well. So I guess everybody's into the Zoom stuff. But here at the Armchair
shout out
GM.
to Joey for downloading Skype for us. We're really thankful he did that for
dedicated,
us.
We're still, I guess we're still dinosaurs here using Skype as opposed to all these new Zoom people.
Oh, are we old now?
I guess so. Spreaker, you got to get on it, man. You got to import Zoom now. But Well, folks, that's going to wrap it up for today's special, very special edition of the Dog Pound podcast with General Manager Joey Burke and his interview right here on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your source for North American sports coverage by sports fans, for sports fans, delivered to you right here from the Niagara region. As always, I'm your host of the Dog Pound podcast, Cappy. You can follow me on Twitter at Capoots13 with a Canadian Z, and again, my co-host Kyle. You can follow him on Twitter at JustKyle51. A big thank you to all of our great sponsors who help put us on a support the network, keep the show on the air, and finally to you viewers out there and Ice Dog fans for hopefully tuning in and listening along for this very special and very in-depth episode on the Dog Pound podcast. And this has been the Dog Pound podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network by sports fans, for sports fans. We'll see you next time. Be safe. Bark, bark, bark. Go Dogs, go. And we'll hopefully see you down at the Meridian Center next season.